Hey, today we are starting the book of Acts in our Central Reads Bible reading plan. You got through the Gospel of Luke, congratulations. And this week we start the second volume that Luke wrote, which is the book of Acts. Acts was written by Luke, who wrote Luke also. You can tell because, well, all the themes and the language is the same, but also the beginning of the book of Acts, it's addressed to the same person who the beginning of Luke was addressed to, this guy Theophilus, and he wrote, in the very first line of the book of Acts, I wrote in the first book, the Gospel of Luke, all about Jesus, what he began to do and teach. And so this is the follow-up for it. And the interesting thing is that he says this is, I wrote about what Jesus began to do and teach, and this, you get the impression, is what Jesus continued to do and teach. Even after he's raised from the dead and ascended, he is still doing and teaching through his church, through his apostles, through the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit is really the main actor through the book of Acts. I mean, it's God working through the power of his Spirit through the church, because it's the Spirit that drives things. So this is Luke's second volume, and there's some intentional overlap between the end of Luke and the beginning of Acts, especially around Jesus and his ascension. And he says, before that happens, when that happens, you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come on you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, in Judea, and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. And this idea of being a witness, someone who knows something and so he can share it, right? So we know Jesus and so we can share Jesus. This is sort of the main understanding of what the church is all about. It's about knowing Jesus so we can share Jesus with the world. And that verse there, Acts 1:8, that kind of gives us a table of contents for the book of Acts. It starts out in Jerusalem, and then it moves a little bit outside of Jerusalem to Judea, and then it moves outside of that into Samaria, and then it goes to the end of the earth, finally with Paul arriving in Rome. That's sort of the end of the earth for them. So these first few chapters are phenomenal. They're action-packed. They're super important. Chapter 2 is a long chapter, but it is also, it is the birth of the church. It's Pentecost, when the Spirit comes, and then Peter comes out and gives this awesome sermon. Just one theme to keep your eye on as you read Acts, and that is the prominence and the importance of the resurrection. That's something that we kind of lose track of sometimes. We know how important the resurrection is, but for these people who were talking and doing things in Acts, it was the fact that Jesus was raised from the dead. That's the thing that mattered. That's what made this movement unlike anything else. And that makes sense because he's the only person to ever have been truly raised from the dead. But that's really what is different about Christianity in a world that was filled with other kinds of religions. So yeah, that's a little bit on the book of Acts. Happy reading. This is great stuff. And these first few chapters, especially of Acts, are just so action-packed. So I hope you enjoy reading Acts if you've never read it, or if you've read it 1,000 times already. I hope you enjoy this time through as well. Thank you, and happy reading.